Great, William, you could make me a co-host too. Welcome, everybody. Hello again. Looks like we have people coming in. I forgot to turn on my chat, so I haven't seen. Just come in and say hello in the chat and let us know where you are. We always love to know. Let me get the chat open. Oh, it's empty on my end. Great, well, welcome everybody to our faculty Q&A. We got 41 people coming in now, and just go ahead and put your hello in the chat for us. And remember to set your chat so that everyone can see your message. It's an option down at the bottom. Let it be that everybody can see your message. And this is our September faculty Q&A for the Resonance Academy. We always appreciate you all being here. And this is for members of the Academy. And we are grateful for your support and your membership. And this gives us a chance to hang out a little bit together. And there's some people chiming in now. Sedona, Arizona, Montreal, Pamela Lee, of course. Chat was disabled. Oh, is that why? Oh, good.
So Zoom has this new feature that when we start, I have to go in and select enable chat.
Oh, okay, good to know. That's why it was so quiet. Yes, now it's filling up. Hello, everybody. Great to be here. And as usual, we have William and Ines and myself holding down the fort here for the faculty Q&A. And this is your chance to put some questions in the Q&A. And if you can just look at the bottom of your screen, you should see a Q&A link at the bottom there. And that's where you can put questions. So please do as we get started here. Just getting mine open up as well. And let's see, we have Germany, Oregon, Michigan, more from Germany, Vancouver, a couple of people in Vancouver. Say hello to each other. Not BC, DC, the other Vancouver. Okay, wave to each other across the continent. More from Germany, yay. From the UK. Great, London, Ohio, San Diego. Wow, so great. Wales, welcome. Great. Well, let's do a little check-in. I'm here in Asheville, North Carolina, still, and enjoying this kind of early fall air that's come in and lightening up from all the humidity and thunderstorms, and so it feels really good. I'm sort of in a bit of a cruise mode as winter's coming and looking at where to go rather than be here for the winter. So yeah, things are well. Yeah, not any big scientific breakthroughs for me to report at the moment. There certainly is lots of fascinating stuff going on. I know some of those James Webb Space Telescope images are just astounding. There's a new one of Neptune, I think it was, that was just posted. That is just phenomenal. It's really incredible, the difference from Hubble to the Webb. And I know that it's also raising so many questions to about the standard cosmological model and some of the evidence of what's out there and actually going on really brings things into question, which is also really cool. So that's exciting. But yeah, let's do a little check-in with, how about Ines? Do you want to just say hi and what's happening?
Hi, Marshall. Hi, everyone. I was just happy to see there was someone from Morocco and Sweden also.
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Yay.
And Greece just now. Just talking about the, yeah, it's amazing. Talking about the James Webb, there are many things that are happening now, which is amazing. I don't know if I've seen, maybe I could share the screen. Have you seen the one of the images with the kind of like rings around the star? Like they look like ripples. I don't know if you have all. It's incredible. I'll just share it very fast so that let me see. Okay, so that we'll get a glimpse of what we're talking about. Can you see my screen?
It's still loading.
Oh,
There it is. Yep.
yeah, there it is. Okay, so you can see that's a star. It's a star. It's 5,600 light years away from Earth in the Cygnus constellation. It's called WR140. I'm doing a news post about it, so that's why I have it so fresh. And what I'm impressed is the ripples. Well, it doesn't say ripples by itself. It's just the rings that you see around the star, which are extremely familiar to us in the model, if we consider the Nassim Harame's model and the paper that he wrote with Elizabeth Rauscher, about precisely the solutions. If you include the torque and Coriolis in Einstein's fields equation, then you would see this kind of like behavior at the equator. So I just found this like so incredible. This image from the Webb telescope. And that made me also remember that many of the things that I just saw some article not so long ago, that they're saying that we have to be careful with the images and the analysis that they're making, because apparently the models that they're using to calculate are not, I mean, the images are now so well resolved in time and everything that the models itself are not being well applied. That's giving some confusion concerning the ages of the galaxies and things like that, because not so long ago, a huge announcement was wild saying that there were galaxies that were prior, that because of the James Webb signal, these galaxies apparently were older than the Big Bang. And so it seems that has been a misinterpretation of the data of James Webb Telescope. So there are many, so we have to be careful now at this moment. I think it is too soon to say how there are many things that are, yes, they are much older than what they were expected. Not only the galaxy, but the complexity of the galaxy was much more complex than was expected from our cosmological models. So it is kind of challenging in the cosmological model, but it is not going far as saying that Big Bang didn't happen. That apparently was some kind of misunderstanding. So now there's a huge discussion going on. It got really not violent, but it's got, so I would say that we have to wait a little bit longer as to see that they're, because we're extremely overwhelmed by the images and the quality of the images, and very probably we have to wait a little bit longer. The James Webb cannot see so far. I mean, if you see the time scales that it can see, it can go. It is still very far from the time scales of Big Bang. He being in position that so. But anyways, it's amazing to see everything, and what the image that they just shared about Neptune is like, it's breathtaking. It's really breathtaking. Yeah. So
yeah. Great. Thanks for those insights. Yeah. It's helpful to get your perspective on it.
Yeah.
And you, William, go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay.
Go ahead, William.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of exciting stuff for biologists with the James Webb Space Telescope, because one of its primary mission objectives is to look for exoplanets that might have habitable signatures, signatures that are indicative of habitability for living organisms, at least life as we know it, carbon-based life forms. And so not too long ago, the James Webb Space Telescope released an image of a direct picture of an exoplanet. That was pretty exciting. And I think a first, at least having an image of an exoplanet at that kind of resolution and clarity. I've never seen it before until the James Webb Space Telescope, and as well as taking spectra of exoplanets, direct spectral analysis to see what kind of molecules are in the atmosphere. So detecting things like water vapor, carbon dioxide, maybe soon even methane and oxygen, which are fairly indicative of biological processes. So that's something that would be very exciting to find an exoplanet that starts to mark off all those boxes on habitability. Is it in the habitable zone of the host star where there can be liquid water? Does it have an atmosphere? Does that atmosphere have a kind of a diverse mixture of gases? And as well, it was taking some spectral analysis from black hole emissions, jets of black holes. I think that, Ines, you shared that with our research group. If you look at the spectra of what is in these jets from this black hole, it's what's called metal rich. So it has a lot, for astronomers, anything heavier than hydrogen is a metal. So it has like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, phosphorus, all these elements that are important to life. And you can see it, that this black hole is just supplying massive amounts of these life forming elements. So it's very exciting to see. There's also some recent report on images from our own supermassive black hole at the heart of our galaxy, Sagittarius A. And, they were reporting that, so they've got this direct image of the black hole. And so they can start to do spectral analysis of it. And they're seeing that it's actually way dimmer than what they had expected. Because, there's gases, especially at the nuclear, the center of the galaxy, the galactic nucleus. It's a very dense region, so there's lots of gases, and they're coming into the black hole, and they form this accretion disk. And that accretion disk should be very hot and bright. It should be like emitting gamma rays and all this. And it's actually left a lot of the cosmologists who specialize in studying supermassive black holes and active galactic nuclei kind of scratching their heads because they can't explain what they're seeing with that direct image. It's been really exciting to see some of the thoughts that are coming out, because they're talking about feedback processes where the supermassive black hole is shaping the evolution and development of the whole galaxy. This is kind of a remarkable thing, because the supermassive black hole is kind of small compared to the mass of the galaxy. It's a couple million solar masses. The galaxy is like 1.5 trillion solar masses. So, the kind of feedback processes that are occurring are very intricate, multi-layered, fractal kind of feedback feed-forward processes where the galaxy is shaping the behavior of the black hole, and the black hole is reciprocating and shaping the evolution and the development of the galaxy. And it's just, of course, for us, all of this is like, Nassim was saying that, and now they're saying it, so it's like, we always see the corollaries with the research we're doing here. So it's definitely exciting. But as far as update, just a few quick things from the Residence Academy. We have a interim forum that's been set up. So, we've been working to, for all the contributing members, you might have noticed that the forum's been non-accessible. We've been working to kind of resolve that issue, but I wanted to let folks know that there is a interim forum that's been set up on a Discord platform so that, we can, as a community, still come together and discuss unified physics and questions that might be coming from the unified science course. And so if you're a contributing member, you can go to the contributing members page, and there's a link to that Discord platform where you can access the forum. And there's actually a lot of community engagement going on there with unified physics discussions taking place. So that's something that is now available that I hope folks can take advantage of.
Great, that's good to know. Good, good. I guess there's not really a link to put to it. Is just find that link at the once they log in.
Yeah. So once you log into the contributing members section,
Okay.
if you go to the calendar of events, probably where you access the link for this Zoom webinar, at the bottom, there's a link to the Discord forum.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There's a lot of cool features on there because we do monthly breakout groups. It has the ability that anytime a group wants to get together and have a breakout group, they can do it via the Discord platform at any time.
Oh, okay.
And it works very similar to like a Zoom breakout group meeting where you just sign on and you have video and audio and little chat room is set up. And so, there's it's a great opportunity for continuing discussions of, unified science, unified physics.
Excellent. That's really cool that the breakouts can happen anytime.
Anytime.
Monthly ones that I think you're hosting those monthly ones. Yeah, that's great. Great. All right. Well, I guess I would say just in acknowledgement of there not being alive with Nassim at the beginning of this month. Needless to say, Nassim is very, very full on with. Well, I know he's very deeply immersed still with Olivier in the final stretch, I would say, of getting the paper ready for publication. Once it gets written, it has to be reviewed and edited and fine-tuned and cleaned up. And I think I understand that they're getting pretty close to that stage, which means it's getting close to be getting published. Now, when that is, I couldn't say. It still has a ways to go. I know that for that process to happen, but obviously we are all very eager for that. Somebody in here was asking about the paper, but we can come to that in a second. Oh, good. There's more, one or two more questions in here. Yeah, please feel free to add some questions if you have any. Put them in the Q&A. There's just a few here, so we're just going to go with ones that we'd like to address in any order that we end up choosing. There's one we'll start with here. Anonymous attendee: is Nassim's theory currently reviewed by any scientists active in media, such as Neil deGrasse Tyson or Brian Cox, or any figures that, from lack of better words, control the main narrative and channel information to the public? A good question. I haven't heard of any of those people in any direct exposure or acknowledgement or contact, but how about you guys? Do you know of anything?
Well, I think it's better than that. I mean, yeah.
It's probably true.
I mean, Neil deGrasse and Brian Cox, they're science disseminators who work not on the edge. They disseminate things that are currently very, very well established. So I wouldn't go on that direction. I would go much more into I would still check. I would say Penrose, this is the direction I would head and that's where it's happening. I mean, I cannot tell exactly which names are, but this kind of names, like, yeah, it's gotta go that way. Yeah, once it gets all the recognition that it deserves, then of course Neil deGrasse, Brian Cox, these other Mickey Jack will also go and jump in. But this is not the people we're aiming at I mean, at this level. No, not at all. Not at
Right.
all.
They're more like
So
promoters. They're like more like promoters of popular ideas,
of
you know,
mainstream already, mainstream
mainstream.
theories. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no,
And
yeah.
one of the
That
reasons
is so much.
one of the reasons that they're so successful at being promoters is that they stick to the mainstream narrative. They're in a position where if they were to mention anything that's considered even marginally alternative or fringe kind of idea, outside the mainstream, they would probably quickly, they generate a lot of controversy, probably quickly start to lose popularity. I've even seen it when Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked about the videos released by the Pentagon, so official US document videos of unidentified, unexplainable aerospace phenomenon. It's aerospace and it's aquatic, it transmedium, it can go into space, air, and water, and they've videoed this. And I was just astonished that his reply was, I think that's a glitch in the software. And I can't bring myself to believe that he really thinks that what he was seeing is a glitch in the software. I mean, it's just so obviously not a glitch in the software. So I mean, the only other thing I could think of is that, well, that's just the safest, easiest answer is like,
brush it off.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get tomatoes thrown at me. People aren't gonna get mad at me. I'll just suggest maybe it's a software glitch. But I was kind of I guess I'd say not too excited by that answer, because it's just like I don't know how anybody who's supposed, rational and logical could look at those videos and say, oh yeah, that's a computer glitch.
Right. Well, it's obviously very indicative of the caliber of scientific rigor that's behind their, facade of what they represent, and that there's not really a true like integrity of willingness to have that open mind and say, well, wait a minute, let's at least question this as a possibility.
Yeah.
And so, we get like Ines, you were saying, that they're more just spokespeople for a particular scientific paradigm and viewpoint. And they will catch up when they have no choice but to do so. And that, so that'll be a good day. But in the meantime, there are much more important people that it sounds like are already paying attention, which we will get to know more once the paper comes out.
It's good because, I was even surprised to see that Elizabeth Rauscher, this collaborator, she's a physicist, was in Berkeley working, and she was very prolific. She died in 2019. She was working with Nassim, and they did, I think, 2-3 papers together. She's got a Wikipedia page. So even though she was very into, she was not only physicist, but she was also into paranormal and things like remote viewing and things like that. And he was even involved, I don't know if directly involved with this research done in Stargate and CIA and all of that. And so I was surprised to see that she's got, so she was not censored. She's got a Wikipedia page. Someone did her Wikipedia, and then you can see Nassim's papers in the wiki. So he made it to wiki. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And so, it's like, so these are small signs that are telling you that something's happening. Like there's some changes, deep changes going on, and at some point, for instance, just not to go so far, like a couple of weeks ago, maybe 1 month, there's an interview done by a friend. He's a physicist, but he turned into neuroscience in Alicante. He's in Spain, and he's now the director of a laboratory called Behavioral Organism Laboratory in Alicante. So he's the director in this lab, and he's like doing many things at the same time, and he's doing some kind of interviews for physicists, like mainly physicists, and he's proposing like in the topic of the future scientist, no? And so it's a very nice set of interviews, and he got to interview Abraham Loeb. So for those who don't know him, he was the head director of the astronomy department at Harvard for many years. I think he's been the longest one. But he became more famous, not because of that, but because of his comments on Oumuamua, this extra solar system object that's true. And so he just suggested that maybe because of the signatures he had given, and William has very nice articles about it. So he just thought that because of the signatures it was living, he thought it was very probably not from an intelligence, it was from an intelligent civilization or something. And he was not saying that it should be a living civilization. He was just saying, if there's this time of the universe, there's been time for many civilizations to appear and maybe disappear. So maybe this is something that just is some kind of like leftovers from another already disappeared civilization. He was being very, very like careful on what he was saying, but he was completely, but because he was who he was not so not so attacked, though he was very much attacked. And at some point, and this is it's very funny because in that interview that I got the chance to see live, because I'm a friend of his, and so he invited, I'm a friend of Alex who created the interview, not of Avi Loeb. And so at that moment, he was saying so many things that are so familiar to what Nassim has said, like we have to be much more in contact with nature. So I want to share the interview because it's amazing what all the things that Abi says that are so aligned with what Nassim has said for so many years concerning that all the things not directly related to science, but on the political side of science that has been screwing science so much for so many years. And so Abi says, okay, so I got really attacked because of my opinions on this. So they were very well supported. But the good thing is that now, because of the pandemic, I had to stay at home, he says. And so many people went to my place, physically to my house. Many, 100,000 people had so many interviews during this period that I cannot believe it. And he's got even funds from private investors. He got millions just from private investors saying, okay, we're going to go your way because we are tired of this politics behind science and all of that. Imagine that. So it's just amazing. I'm going to share the interview here. So, because at the end, it's very funny. I got to ask him a question and I just wanted to tell him, we have the already ready, but of course, I could not say so. So I just got to take the moment to, I'm going to share. I don't know, is it shared with everyone? I just placed it in the chat.
No,
so please don't look,
hosting panel or someone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't. Can someone put it in the as for everyone?
I can post it to everyone.
You could post it, yeah. Because don't lose that interview. It's incredible. You will see Avi Loeb for 1 hour. Like if it almost looked like Nassim. It was like so incredible to see it.
He's doing some really interesting things with that those funds too, because he's proposing to go and recover interstellar craft material that he believes crashed on Earth. There was a object, ostensibly, if it was natural, it was a meteorite. They crashed into the ocean, but him and some of his graduate students were doing analysis of it, and they don't think it matches the composition of meteors, asteroids, comets, or anything. So he's going to go dredge the ocean to try to recover what could be an interstellar craft. So he's doing some interesting things. Mm-hmm.
It's like he's almost creating the same like singularity adventure. Like let's go and find.
Yeah, right.
And so he was saying that we have to create this. So he wants to promote this trips. Well, I don't know if they're only scientific personnel, but in order to analyze ancient technologies, so as well. So it's like very, very interesting.
Yeah, he's great. He's really so open-minded, and his delivery is so clear about it all. And he's very, he's very pragmatic while pushing the boundaries of what to even consider as a possible reality. And he's such a likable person that, I think it'd be hard to, push too hard up against him.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you for that insight. I'm so glad that you were able to get into that session with him too.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, it was nice.
William, do you have a question that you see that you want to go to?
Yeah, there was an interesting one that I saw. Let's see, this is from Michael Gillis. Can gravity exist without time? So if gravity is wave, why not time? So yeah, this is a bit of a tricky question because if we consider the theory of general relativity, we know that the gravity, the apparent force of gravity, actually is a geometric function of time, a geometrization of time and space. So when we talk about gravity, it's an emergent force. It is a product of changes in the geometry of time. And so that's more technically referred to as Lorentzian time dilation. And so what you see, and this is a very significant effect. In fact, we have to account for Lorentzian time dilation in our current technologies, for GPS or Earth surface to satellite communications. You have to account for, one, the time it takes for the light to travel there and back, and also the fact that the satellites are a little bit in the future. They're time traveling. They've time traveled a little bit into the future, and we're a little bit in the past. And that has to do with the time dilation, the different geometry of time, i.e. When you're closer to the surface of Earth, time is moving slower. And when you're further from the surface of the Earth, time is moving faster. So you have some very significant time zones occurring there. One is quite literally in the future compared to where you're at, and via the Einstein's equivalence principle, we know that this time dilation is a function of mass, so causing curvature of space and time is equivalent to acceleration as well. So, if you were to get on a interstellar craft, a ship, and travel at a relativistic speed that's approaching the speed of light, time would move much slower for you in that craft. And you'd actually, most other frames of reference compared to yours would appear to be jumping into the future. And that's an important consideration, just because I still read articles and hear news reports on space travel that says that it's impossible because stars are too far away. So it's like, I can't tell you how many supposedly science articles I've read where they say Alpha Centauri is 4.2 light years away, so it'll take 4.2 light years to get there traveling at the speed of light, which is just wrong. It's so wrong. It's like, if you're traveling at a significant portion of the speed of light, you have time dilation.
Can you hear me? I don't know if you're catching.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So my question, I've been thinking about this for years, but, when Einstein talked about the man falling from the clock tower, and as the man fell from the clock tower, he had this fantastic idea, the most wonderful idea, that the man would experience weightlessness, correct? That was Einstein's quote. And the man experienced weightlessness. My sense would be, I think, can anyone conceptualize time and gravity as one in the same wave?
Yeah.
So time is the shortest end of the gravity wave, and gravity would be the longest end of it. And that when we experience time differential from speed and moving to the speed of light, we're actually moving along that wave of time from gravity through time. See, I'm just a crazy idea that sometimes I throw out, that I think about, that why isn't time and gravity one and the same thing in the same way? We're just not seeing it.
Well, so if you talk about time as a wave, that's going to be a little bit different than what you're picturing, because time as a wave, you'll have sequential speeding up and slowing down of time.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different, and that does occur. And so actually, all around us, there are time waves passing through us and passing through the Earth. And so this is at very, very small scales.
At the Planck scale.
Well, no, I mean, definitely at the Planck. Well, at the Planck scale, time kind of just breaks down.
Yeah, it gets on.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a multiply connected space-time geometry. So it's like it's all these fluctuating vortexing wormholes. So I mean, there's almost no causal structure at the Planck scale. So one of the reasons it's timeless. It's in a sense, it's almost beyond time, and it's one of the reasons why, if you couple to the Planck scale, things, no matter their separation in time or space, become coupled, interconnected.
Yes.
But these kind of time waves you can detect even at the atomic scale, atomic resolution. So ostensibly, that they are affecting things like atoms and molecules in our body.
So then let me throw it out there. There was a time when Einstein predicted gravity waves, and people thought that was nuts, right?
Oh yeah.
So my question would be, maybe I'm just foolish and I don't understand what I don't understand, but my sense is that my question is, can time exist can gravity exist without time?
I don't think so. No.
So gravity and time are connected. They're so related that you cannot have one without the other.
Yeah. In fact, you can.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can generate the apparent force of gravity solely by considering differences in the speed of time.
Okay.
So that time dilation. So if you were to say disregard curvature of space, so the spatial component, we can get a pretty good intuitive sense of how that produces a force. Yes. Because there's the trampoline example with the bowling ball in the center, and things are going to roll towards it. But even if you disregard that and you only consider what would happen to something moving past an object where time is moving slower, closer to the object, but faster, further away from it. So you've got an object, and consider that the object's like extended, like a bar, like elongated. So the portion that's closer to that object, let's say it's the Earth, and this is an object in orbit around it, is going to, time's going to move slower and faster here. So we haven't factored in any kind of forces yet. What that will do, just because of that difference in the passage speed of time, the object will appear to gravitate into the central mass, the central object. And it's another reason why gravity is an apparent force. It's not like fundamental, it's not intrinsic. So when you say, can you have gravity without time? No, I mean, gravity is a result of that apparent force is a result of these differences in time. Now we can say, we could ask though, what is time? And that's something that we address in our space memory network paper. And so, really, I think what we're talking about is going back again to going to a more fundamental level than just time, is actually the density of space. So really, it's the geometry of space that is the most fundamental aspect. And where it's denser, time moves slower. And, you could speculate on reasons why this might be. I think it's in information and entropy aspect. For instance, if denser space can record more information, it can record more Planck seconds. So, it'll appear that there's more time there. Whereas in a less dense region, it can't record as many Planck seconds, so it kind of skips over some intervals and it appears to go
so
faster.
it would be less conscious then. It would be less conscious, it would have less information.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why Nassim is saying that one of the kind of like processes of the evolution and development of the universe is creating more surfaces, more ordered, coherent, dense regions of space, because greater consciousness there, more information storage, more memory storage, and time would move slower in those regions. So you'd have more time to enjoy the universe.
So then if I could track you a little bit, I don't want to monopolize the time because there's a lot of people, and if I am, flag me and just shut me off because I do this. But
go ahead and finish this out, and then we'll go to the next question.
Spin and gravity, the relationship between the two.
Yeah. Well, spin, rather, gravity is a result of spin.
So, so spin is the origin of gravity at the smallest scale, at the Planck scale.
Yeah. I mean, so, we can kind of identify ontologically what is the most fundamental level. And, time is actually kind of more derivative. So we can explain gravity as a result of differences in time dilation. Sure. But that differences in time dilation is a derivative of geometrization of space, curvature of space, density of space. And what we see with the Herrmann-Rauscher solution is that anytime you have that curvature of space, there is going to be a torque component. And if you really get into the dynamics and the mathematics, you see that the curvature is generated by the torque, the spin. Yeah. So why would mass cause space to curve? Well, we can just put that out there, but it's kind of nebulous. It's ill-defined. Why? Like, what is mass and why is it causing space to curve? Well, mass is a coherent spin of space.
That's organized.
It's organized, structured. And when space spins like that, it curves. When something curves, it generates an apparent force that we call gravity.
And then that's the thing that we call particles, mass.
Yes, yeah. And the particles are little vortexes in the Planck plasma, spinning vortexes. Yeah.
Thank you, William. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for the question. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Great conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
Ines, what do you have?
I would like to address Andrew's questions. He's got two of them. Andrew Javla.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got first. He got one which refers to model 7, and then he's got a second, which became the most voted, but his first question was, yeah.
Great.
So,
There's
hey,
Andrew.
Andrew.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I apologize for the non-clarity of my question. That just shows you how confused I am. But in a nutshell, if a proton has a holographic volume, why don't things that contain protons also have a holographic mass?
Oh, they have. It's just that, okay, the problem is the same that with the proton. I mean, when you have the proton, you were saying that why does the atom doesn't do the same thing like the proton? That was your question, right? Okay. But remember that the reason why we consider the proton to be not to be a black hole or have a holographic mass is because we are not able to measure its mass, its real mass. We don't measure it. We're inferring it from a model. What we're measuring is the rest mass, which is that part of the information that we're able to access from the outside, right?
Okay.
So that's what we measure. So and that is having a scalar, a rotational relationship with the first, say, standing wave, which would be the vortex that we call the proton. It's got at some point at its first boundary condition, let's say, which is the Bohr radius, which is exactly the position of the electron, which is rotating at alpha. And do you remember that part of the so you have a rotational relationship between, so it's always the same Planck plasma. It's just that the Planck plasma is rotating when you're it's got its center rotation, which is the singularity, and from there on you will have this gradient of speeds. So the gradient of speed happens. The first gradient, let's say, important one for us, would say the proton with the first stable, let's say, orbit, the proton, okay? Then that proton's got a second layer. That layer is the electron. So it's the same Planck plasma rotation, just that's got a gradient of speeds. And that relationship of speeds is what solves or gives solution to the hierarchy problem, because the hierarchy problem is a huge problem in physics in which we don't understand why, for instance, this problem of the masses and the sizes of the particles. No, so there's some, but that's because we have not understood, or let's say the current mainstream approach has not understood the real origin of special relativity, which is precisely that there's this gradient of velocities, of rotational tangential velocities. And there's angular momentum conservation all along. But just precisely because you have that angular momentum conservation is that you can establish those precise points of stability, which we call proton, electron, and so on. And so that's the thing. Yeah. So that's why and that's going to be very clear now in the next paper to come. It's going to be beautiful because we have the kernel of the mass, which is exactly 64 PSU. That's when the mass starts, and that's where precisely, have you heard that there's also this dynamics of dynamical rotations, or this gradient of rotations that I'm talking about will also be related to the different regimes of phases of the Planck plasma, like Bose-Einstein condensate, and then a mixture of Bose-Fermi and Fermi. It's coming because of the relationship of speeds in the Planck plasma. So that's what's giving them that behavior. So that's that would be like for the first part of the question. So that would be then you had a second question, is right, the one about the paper, right?
Yes, the one about the paper. That's right. Should I sell my solar stocks when the paper comes out?
Yeah, well, we have up to the last time it was like for this year at the end of the year, but it could maybe get pushed a little further, but it's like, yeah, it's been it's finished. I mean, the main work, it's already ready, it's finished. It's just a matter of having it well, it's many things in parallel. You have to not only write the document properly, but also have it revised by people, just precisely the question that was asked before, the first question. And so we have to make sure that the right people are the ones who are reading the first drafts of it, so that it gets endorsed by some important fee, which has to happen. Because if not, it could get published, but in a very not important review, and we need this to be like, you know, where it deserves, really. No, it's got to be Nature, Science, so that it really gets the momentum we need, so to move the Titanic
Yes.
to the yeah, before it hits the iceberg.
Away from the iceberg.
Yeah, it really needs to go where it needs to go. So this all has to be very done without any, you know, improvisations, or not. We have to take the time it takes, so for it to be sure that each step along the way is very solid. This is why Nassim has taken so long to write the paper, because if he finds a little, oh, they could get a little bit, you know, troublesome here because of this little, no, so we have to solve that. And no, now there's so everything's gotta be crystal clear, everything, like to the last smallest detail has got to be addressed. So that's the kind of rigor, curiosity, and solidity that we need in order to move forward. So that's why it's gotta be so it's time consuming. It's gotta be like, and also in resonance with the things that are happening. Like, it wouldn't be the same thing if this paper had come out 3 years ago, when many things happening regarding entanglement and cosmological observations are now giving the information they're giving now. I mean, at some point, the thing is that now we know that there's entanglement at biological temperatures. There have been quantum biologists been almost like confirmed that biologists got quantum, it's a quantum phenomena at the base and things like that. Some years ago, that would not be been a possibility. So the thing is that everything's happening when it has to happen. So I'm confident that the paper will be out when it needs to be, when the pieces are as a resonance usually does. When the pieces are in place for it to go where it has to go. So
at the right time.
So
and at the right time and no sooner. And Andrew was asking about.
The only thing I can say is that at that time it's closer. It's closer than ever. It's really close. It's just So we are there, and we just have to keep, you know, just looking at the news around us and seeing how everything is revalidating and confirming even more Nassim solution, so that, and that's just things that are adding up to this resonance, you know, so that at some point there's no way that this cannot be considered as
it's going to be tight as can be. And Andrew was asking about, I know, Andrew, you're asking about how soon after its publication to expect implementation of applications based on the information. And I would say soon, very soon. I think for one, you know, there will be some of what is already in there by Nassim and others that I was like, okay, we can see these applications. And so I don't know the status of anything. But I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, there were some things behind the scenes that we don't know about yet. And then also, once this does come out, I think, as Nassim has said in past webinars, it's just going to just turn on light bulbs left and right, and people are going to start innovating and realizing that this provides the solution and the theoretical framework to go into engineering and application just like instantly. So probably Nassim would say, get ready to sell those stocks because it's coming.
Yeah, because, you know, it's going to be a tsunami effect. It's going to be a tsunami. Once they turn on their attention to that, I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I think Nassim's work was so protected. I mean, so screened from the outside, because it would have not gotten so far if it didn't have that, let's say, rejection from mainstream, which is basically that there's huge screening around that. So that work was made by him, basically, you know, so that, because if not, it would have been, you know, completely overwhelmed by the mainstream, the mainstream structure. The infrastructure of the mainstream is just, it's a tsunami that just passes through and just takes over everything. So it would have not been properly done. It would have been just, you know, because, you know, mainstream scientists are in another conflict. They're like, they need popularity, they need to do publications. I mean, it's not the proper way of working in science, in my view. It's so just lose too much time. We have seen it. So how come this theory is coming from an outsider and not from that's a huge criticism towards academy. What happened in Science Academy, that just people are just too stressed and competing with others, not collaborating, not really understanding what they're doing. We're all kidnapped by mathematics, which are completely nonsense. The standard model is a huge, it's unbelievably complex. And so at the end, what happened? How come? Well, because this is what real science should be about, you know. This is what should, it's not writing papers and publishing like crazy. Like, I don't know how many papers, you know, it's ridiculous. The dynamics inside academy is just completely nonsense. And honestly, 80% or more of the papers that are being written in science are complete BS. I mean, it's completely useless, completely, I mean, no, it's not acceptable. It's not possible. This has to stop. So I'm just happy that this is going to course correct everything. It's gotta happen, because it's a huge waste of time, of resources, of everything. It's just, it's almost a crime against humanity.
It's getting to that point. I think we're actually not. I think we're not actually trying to course correct the Titanic. We're going to let that one just ram into the iceberg and sink. We're going to actually, you know, get in our levitational crafts and go in and take off the people who are ready to get off that ship into the right kind of a ship.
I'm very happy to see your passion, Ines. And what I hear you saying is that the paper is going to be published at a time and in a manner so that it has the maximum possible impact.
Exactly.
Nothing short of that.
Important.
All right,
Yeah,
great.
great.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you
Andrew,
all
for being
very
here.
much.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. Great. All right. Let's see. William, did you have another one? I haven't. I've been looking around here, but
yeah, there's a interesting one on consciousness. Always interesting topic to consider, and something that you know, we're very interested in our research. Ines, your book on Shintergy is available, yes?
Yeah.
Oh, do you have it? Oh, look at that. Oh, wow.
Okay, it's 60 pages long book. I'm not the main author. The main author is someone who worked with his name is Jose Luis Bueno, and he's a former pupil of Jacobo Ginsberg, who now is becoming very famous because he was one of the, let's say, the pioneers in the research in consciousness. And Jacobo Ginsberg even got to publish in Physics Essay one article where he proved the evoked transferred potential. The evoked transferred potential, just to give you an idea, this is in the 70s, 80s. So he would put two people. So Jacobo Ginsberg, he was and he did psychology, then he did neurophysiology in New York, and so where he got his PhD, and so he moved back to Mexico, and he created a laboratory in the university, in the main university in Mexico, UNAM University, and so he created the INPEC, the Instituto Nacional del Estudio de la Conciencia. That's it studies on consciousness directly, funded by the university, and by the government basically. And he did huge amount of research and many publications. And he got to have this experiment placed and done, where you would have two people who are already connected by some kind of relationship. Maybe they're a couple, maybe they're just very close friends. Let's say they're entangled somehow. So he would place them in different rooms, okay, at the same time. One room is in a Faraday cage. It's got a Faraday cage inside. So he would place one of the subjects in the Faraday cage and another one in a different location, far in another room. And so he would ask for them to think about the other one. So they would think on the other person, while at the same time, they would have some electrodes connected to their heads. So they would have recorded of they would have their EEG signature, plotted at the same time. So what they would do to the person who is inside the Faraday cage, they would flash a light to him or her. And of course, this signal will be registered in the EEG, right? The incredible thing is that at the same time, the other one is also recording the same form of the signal, just a little bit less intense. The intensity is a little bit smaller, but you see the correlation is it's perfect. So they're on their own doing their EEGs until they get the stimulation, and then the signal comes very synchronized, very similar in their behavior, and then it goes like chaotic again with respect to each other. And this was published in the Physics Review, and it even mentions Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen, like the EPR conjecture, like it's saying this must be entanglement. There's no other way of explaining that. And this researcher, and this was published in 1994. I know now because of a collaboration we're starting with them. I know one of the co-author of that article. She's named as Leah Ati. She's a woman now living in Miami, but they're now thinking of reopening this laboratory. So, well, anyway, why? Because Greenberg disappeared in 1994, right? Some months after he did this work. And they're about to start an experiment. They had even placed the laser where he would study if there were some correlations, if consciousness could impact the signal probed through a laser beam. Let's say if this could be measurable, like the effect of the consciousness, on the photonic count of in a detector. And so they had placed the setup, but they didn't get to do any experiment because then he disappeared in 94, at the end of 94. And there's a movie talking about this investigation that was done by, it's an incredible movie. I think it's got subtitles in English. It's called The Secret of Dr. Greenberg. You have to see it. It's just, it's a beauty. It's so well done. It's so well investigated. But well, this person disappears, and so things seem to be like cooled off. He had trained that last year, and 2 years, 1 year before, and then in that last year, he had worked with this person as well, Jose Luis Bueno, and they had done many experiments during the year together. And so this person is the person I'm working on collaborating with. So we took the laser experiments and we decided to do them because they had not done before. They were not done before. And so this is what is being explained in this book. So there's a small chapter that I wrote about the scientific part, but most of it, it's what happened during this 25 years of research of this person who got on his own and said, okay, I lost my mentor. He didn't even get to publish his results. He was working in another experiment, which was trying to answer the question, what heals, if the healer or the therapy? He had this question in mind. And so they decided to do something very interesting, which was place the therapist and the patient in a room and collect signatures, physiological signatures like sweating, temperatures, and all of that. And they would record all the session. They would record it, the physiological signatures and the session in parallel. And then at the end, they would study the correlations in the signals. Like, for instance, they would see like the temperature of the therapist is always above the temperature of the patient most of the time, which means that the therapist is always in stress, is more stressed than the patient. That was always the case. But in some moments, they would get to have the same temperature and then they would go on their own, and then the same temperature and then on their own. What they figured out is that the moments where the temperatures coincided were the moments of empathy, because when they saw the recording, at those moments, there was a moment of connection between the therapist and the patient. So they got to see that in real time with the signatures of these physiological measurements. And so that part of the work that he was going to publish with Jose Luis, but then he disappeared. So at some point, when we took these experiments 3 years ago, when I met Jose Luis, he told me about Greenberg and all of that, and we got really involved in this. We decided to do that, and he had trained after Greenberg had disappeared. He had trained during 25 years with Tibetan monks, with all sort of meditative things, and he had improved the meditation because Greenberg had created his own meditation procedure, and so now this is something that it's enhanced, and so we got some incredible results. Maybe I show some of, but it's definitely showing some effect. We have, of course, to go through peer review and all of that, but we will do it at some point. Go and publish all of that, but we really wanted to share this before the sooner the better in a book, so that we could have a testimony of what had happened, because I saw things happening in real time that we said, okay, we have to talk about this, and this has got to be somewhere.
Maybe it'd be good sometime, Ines, to have you just do a whole session on it. I know it's only in Spanish right now, so many people here, most people here won't be able to read it until it comes out in the English language. But it'd be great for you to just put together a presentation about it sometime that everybody could get your transmission about it, and you can show some of your data and things like that. That would be great. And if you could you're good. You're putting the answers in here, and if there's a place you could point people to who do speak Spanish and want to read it, where they can get it, that would be great.
I don't know if everyone's looking at, because I don't know why I cannot have everyone here, everyone. Okay, I'll just write it.
Good. Do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just had it on hosts, and oh my Jesus,
well, that was great. That was a great little overview of
and now that they're mentioning Radan, I know his work, and he's been because we're part of the Galileo Commission where he works as well, and he's got his own institute called ions. He's studying that.
Ions, sure,
but you know what, I have some encountered feelings with regards to being Radan, because he's very pro changing he's very transhumanist. He wants to have humans enhanced in their capacity.
I didn't know that.
By modifying genetically the blueprint.
Really? Oh,
yeah, and that's for me. No, I don't go in that direction. So for me,
we'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay,
William, do you want to go into that question?
Yeah. That at Radin, Dr. Greenberg, there's these published studies that document psychical phenomena, and I've been reviewing some of Brian Josephson's work. He's a Nobel physicist. He invented the Josephson junction, which is a qubit. So that uses a quantum entangled electrical component. And he describes it very much in terms of EPR correlations, Einstein, Podolsky, Rosen correlations, that is entanglement. And he talks about complementarity, where he believes that the information that's available to the biological system, the biomolecules, the cells doing their thing, they have a much greater access to the nature of the quantum states that are there than what like a quantum physicist experimenter has. So while a quantum physicist running an experiment might see outcomes as highly correlated, but nevertheless random, hence you can't really utilize this quantum entanglement. Josephson makes the argument that the biological system has access to much greater information about those quantum states than the quantum physicist experimenter, and therefore can actually utilize that non-local connectivity, that quantum non-local entanglement for outcomes. And it's really great to read that from the mind of Josephson, Nobel Prize winner in physics. Did some really amazing work and continues to do amazing work.
William, that you knew Arturo. You remember Arturo when we went to do the experiments in Torostec? Arturo Ortiz?
Yeah.
Well, he met Josephson personally, and he asked for him to be his tutor, his mentor, and he was not taking students anymore. He said that he was sorry, but he was because he was not happy, Josephson, with all but what happened with him. So he was kind of so he just didn't want to go.
Josephson is involved in the Shintergy. Well,
somehow.
I mean, he was connected in that way at least. The parallels never stop, So I think we have just enough time to actually get in the question. So this is from Zed's World. And he's asking, would you agree that consciousness has a boundary condition within the field of being, and that it exists at all scales, and therefore all things, planets, stars, animals, vegetables, minerals, etc., have that singular conscious point of view? What must therefore include an ultimate coherent, that must therefore include an ultimate coherent God consciousness point of view? And are thoughts therefore part of the consciousness field of being and not owned by any one entity alone? Are there any speculations in the current theories that the Resonance Project has about this and the possibility of telepathy as a communication channel between beings? And the quick and easy answer to this is yes. But I can elaborate on that a little bit here in the time that we have remaining. And just that in the work that we've done, the research we've done, particularly the Unified Space Memory Network, one of the questions that we raised in doing that research was, what are some of the ordering dynamics at play in the evolution and development of the universe in general? So this is physical systems in general, right? Because, the let's say predominant paradigm for that is that it's random processes, and you have serendipitous circumstances that arise with no causal mechanism and via no explanatory dynamic that astonishingly causes high degrees of order and organizational synergy in the universe. But that is just serendipitous because it is random mechanics insofar as kind of a Newtonian framework where you do have some forces at play, but it's mostly particles jostling and bouncing around. Now, when we, however, evaluated this under the idea that no, there probably is a causal mechanism, a deterministic dynamic, if you will, that's at play that actually drives order and increasing organizational synergy. So that's organization that actually, when it comes together, it's more functional than the parts on their own, and so you get like exponential increases in functionality. And so, what we showed is that dynamic necessarily requires a sentience and awareness to that dynamic. And so, that exponential increase in organizational synergy and order is also an increase in intelligence, natural intelligence over time, organization over time. So we very much believe and can demonstrate, show that the ordering dynamics that are at play in general physical systems across the universe require consciousness. Consciousness is an integral and indelible element, property of those processes. And so therefore, every object, all organized matter that we could conceivably identify as an object unto itself has this consciousness. This consciousness that is singular, that is one with the field. And so, it's the singularity of consciousness that's there. But then also, as that's driving evolution and development variation, you also have an elaboration and a variation of that consciousness into many different kinds of expressions and forms. Ultimately, this is the dynamic that produces life in the living system. And so, there's an attempt to define life. What defines a living system and distinguishes it from non-living systems? And the defining characteristic is the expression of that consciousness. So it's in all things, but in the kind of organized matter that we identify as life, you can see it in action. You can see it animated. And that's the defining characteristic of life. It's not the ability to replicate or reproduce, and the ability to respond to stimuli, and all this list of definitions of life. It's the expression of a volition, an intentional, conscious expression of that matter.
Your voice is not coming through very well. See if you have another method. While you're doing that, go ahead and try. We don't hear you yet.
Because there's also the aspect he asked about telepathy.
Let me ask you a question though, because I heard you say something that really intrigued me, which I hadn't thought of before, and I think I heard you say that as these components that are increasing in complexity come together, there's the synergetic effect of the functionality that's greater than just the parts that make it up. And in order for that to occur, there has to be sentience. That is, my understanding of what you said is that the sentience is a requirement for that synergetic effect to occur. There has to be some sort of an awareness of that higher level of the integrated synergetic functionality or intelligence. Did I understand that correctly from what you were saying? Because the idea that the higher level sentience, I guess you could look at it both ways. It has to be there for it to integrate that synergetic wholeness, and the synergetic wholeness is what it emerges from and as. So, I don't know.
Yeah, because it's probably more precise to envision it as it's part and parcel. So as the elements are coming together in that synergistic fashion, with that kind of synergy, that process in and of itself is what produces sentience.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the fact that it's part and parcel though also means that that's not going to happen without the sentience being there.
Yeah.
So it is.
It's all the same thing.
And,
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And it's a feedback feed forward dynamic. And so, in kind of like purely naturalistic terms, you could almost think of it as like an algorithm, a fractal algorithm. But if you don't have either one of those components, it doesn't occur. So it's like you have to have them both. And with a fractal algorithm, you have a function that outputs a value, and the key part is that that value is then input back into the function and ran again, and you keep this iterative process going. And so you've got a feedback feed forward mechanism there. And so, this is kind of a very simplistic way to envision it, but consciousness sentience is that aspect of the dynamic that is feeding back the output value into the function. And so that you can start to build up this holofractal graphic structure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I envisioned. Go ahead.
I have a question. So did you mean, William, that because I think I lost that part when you say that, so for instance, we have different scales. So we have the atom, the cell, like that. So would that mean as well that each part has to be sentient? Like, then let's say the cell would have to be sentient, which probably, I mean, I have no doubt about it. Then people would ask, is an atom sentient? Is there sentience to an atom? Or so that would be I would say yes, in that sense of feedback feed forward mechanism, and having a part which is going back to its own, which is that part of the loop.
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
Yeah, well, and it's just that you have to be I should say, need to be clear on defining very specifically what sentience and consciousness and awareness is. Because for me, there's no reservation at all to picture an atom and even a subatomic particle as having elements of awareness, of consciousness, sentience. But for others, that'll immediately be crazy because I think that what is oftentimes done is equating that term consciousness with our ego structure, our thoughts,
our version of it.
Yeah, our version of it. And it's like so if you say atom is conscious as well, they're like you think an atom is like having an internal dialogue about what it's going to have for breakfast, like that's insane. It's like that's not that's a derivative of consciousness, that kind of conceptual awareness.
It's a particular frame of reference.
Yeah.
Exactly. What about telepathy as a form of communication, not only within species, but between species, maybe even between rocks and species, who knows? But entanglement seems to be, when you were talking before, Ines was talking about that experiment in the Faraday cage, entanglement may be a mechanism or a channel that could be used, and then thoughts would be non-verbal. I mean, there's one question there about somebody's got a child who's not able to communicate except through non-verbal signals. So maybe telepathy. I was just curious if any of your theories or any of your paradigms of thought can address that in terms of understanding it. Would we be able to understand telepathy as a form of non-verbal communication within the field of being at different levels? So my dog certainly reads my mind. I don't know exactly how or what it's picking up, but it's obviously not my language. Could be all sorts of
I think that telepathy is the default setting. And it's more though telepathy, and because it is non-verbal, And it's another I think example of where we get confused on the issue because we characterize it in terms of verbalization of language and syntax and all of that, which is that's a very unique kind of human characteristics. Obviously, birds and whales and other animals have verbalization as well, but a vast amount of the information that even us, the verbalization species, exchange is nonverbal. And I think that it's just that our perception is somewhat clouded by our reliance and centralization of verbalization, that we have very low awareness levels of the kind of massive amounts of information that is being exchanged non-verbally and via telepathic exchanges. And as the default setting, I mean, it's in the cells, it's in the body. It's communication of the body. This isn't the mind. Although, in much the same way the mind can have this occur, and it just, it happens that, if two brains that are spatially separated have had so much interaction, they can become entangled and achieve the same quantum state at the same time, and you would call that telepathy. Like, I just had that same thought.
There was something I read about a guy who was working in Bedlam in New York with schizophrenic patients, and while he was training, he was going to his bosses and saying, they're telling me all sorts of things, and he was told, don't listen to them, they're mad, right? It's not your job to listen to them. And he got peed off at that. And he started to investigate, well, what is it that they're saying? And what they were saying is that they felt that some of the thoughts were not theirs, that there was somebody else's thoughts coming into their head, which kind of makes me, in the frame of my question, between humans, is there any kind of ACAD resonance project theory that might explain thoughts as being something that's emanating from somewhere else that we're picking up on, which are not our own? Because I don't think our thoughts are our own.
We're at the end of our time, but I can answer that just real quickly. Just that,
okay.
And Nassim has a wonderful way of explaining just this. Just that, we are antennas. Our body, mind, our body and brain is a fractal antenna, and really our consciousness and even thoughts are occurring in a non-local fashion. They're occurring in the field, and we're very much receiving and transmitting them. And so, these people that we consider crazy might just be hyper aware that a lot of the thoughts didn't come from from them. And I really believe that I can understand the mechanism, the dynamics of how we can tune ourselves to receive thoughts that don't necessarily originate from ourselves. And I think that this is happening kind of constitutively, actually.
A final thought.
I need to jump off. Excuse me a second. I need to jump off for a meeting, but you guys can wrap it up at your leisure.
Just a final thought.
I'm just gonna say goodbye. You guys can complete at your leisure. So have a good one, everybody, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Marshall.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, I got to jump off too. But a final thought was a friend of mine who's a Christian. He says, "You cannot know the mind of God," and I'm thinking to myself that if thoughts exist at scales, i.e. that within the field of being there are different boundary conditions of which singular consciousness can exist as an expression possibly of the mind of God, then theoretically you probably could know the mind of God. Certainly, I think there's I think it was St. Francis who touched the mind of God and was struck dumb and mouth wide open and eyes glaring, because that would be the connection, right? What would happen to you? It's be totally overwhelmed. So I'm just wondering whether that there is a potential explanation that might allow for understanding that interconnectedness of everything, if we're all connected all at once together forever, then that possibility of telepathic communication with the mind of God, whatever that is, may be possible. But that was my final thought on this as I go slightly crazy over the years. Thinking about it.
I just add something that you made me think about because of this mind of God, because we also have this same belief that there's everything is just all one, that we're all one, and it's this mind of God. But if this mechanism of feedback feed forward is really happening both ways, then the mind of God is like also the sum of all the minds together. So it's not like, it's like it's a living entity. It's not something like,
Exactly.
it's so and we are very much conditioned to that part of the mind of God, which is given through our culture, our families, and our countries, and our planet, and all of that. So I just find that very intriguing, that many people would say that these theories we're working on are validating the existence of God. But I would be very careful on that belief, because that depends on what you're defining as God. So
sure. Well, that's the point. We need a new paradigm to explain it, and I think that's what you're doing.
We need exactly. Even the definition of God, what we mean by God, has to be reframed, because
you can't be stuck. You can't be stuck in schematics or ideologies, right? That are rooted in false thinking, I call it, right? So I think a fresh look, at this would like circle the spiral, so that you move up to a more advanced knowledge of understanding, but it still equates to what went before. If you think of a spiral has a point, William Blake said it, right? History is that spiral, that history repeats itself as you go up the spiral, as it were. Anyway, you guys are great, fantastic. You really make me widen my mind, but I have to go because I have a job and we're implementing a new CRM system, and therefore people are going to call on my skill sets, what it's worth. So thank you so much. I think you guys are absolutely fantastic. Kudos. So I'll see you around.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very insightful question. Yep, I think back to the grind for all of us here. Well, so thank you everyone for joining us. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time here. I just always thoroughly enjoy our conversations, and wish that we had a whole day to go through these questions. But I'll look forward to seeing you all next month for the next Resonance Academy faculty Q&A. I'm sure we can pick right back up on this fascinating thread of conversation.
Yeah, thank you, William. Thank you, everyone, and see you next session and next month. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye all. May the vacuum be with you.
May the vacuum be with you. Yay.